Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mrs. Dudka. Today for our lesson, we're going to be talking about the causes of the Great Depression. To start out, does anybody know any background information on the Great Depression or have any ideas what the causes might be? No? What about you, Jay?
I have no clue.
No clue. Okay. For a lot of people, they assume that the only cause of the Great Depression is is the stock market crash, which happened in 1929. And that's basically all that people know, but a lot of people don't even know what exactly a stock market crash is or anything like that. Today we're going to go over different vocabulary to give you a better idea of what things all combined created the Great Depression of the 1930s. Like I said, we're going to go over some vocabulary, and that will help us wrap it all together to figure out and learn together what all caused this. The first vocabulary term is the stock market. When I was young, I had no clue what the stock market was, and I feel like a lot of people don't, no matter their age. But the stock market basically is where small businesses and large businesses can, they have little pieces of their company that's available to invest in. And people will buy stocks from these companies, and then as the company grows, their money grows as well. And so if a company is doing badly or the economy is doing badly, then the money that these people have invested actually can diminish as well. And so the stock market, when it crashed in 1929, is when a lot of people lost a lot of the money that they chose to invest in various companies of the time. So stock market is the first piece of vocabulary that you got to remember. And that's just one piece of what caused the Great Depression. And then another vocabulary term is an economic depression. Do you guys have any idea what that might mean? No? Okay, so there's a difference between an economic recession and an economic depression. And a recession is something that's happened even in my lifetime in 2008. And that is where the economy dips, but it's for a shorter period of time. A depression is when the economy takes a serious dive and it is for a much more prolonged period. So the Great Depression that we're going to be talking about lasted from 1929 till 1939. And so during that time, it's noted as a depression because businesses closed, people were jobless, people were homeless, there was food rationing, all the things like that. And a lot of it is because there was not enough money circulating in the economy to keep businesses going. Okay, so does that make sense to you guys so far?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Have you guys ever heard of the Dust Bowl?
No.
No? Okay. So, the Dust Bowl, some people learn it as a completely separate thing from the Great Depression, but actually they go together. They're almost intertwined. So the Dust Bowl also happened in the 1930s, and that is when it was a period of drought. You guys are familiar with drought, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, so there was way less rainfall than the average year, and the farmers in the region of Nebraska, Oklahoma, and part of Texas did not do the preparations they needed to in order to prepare for a dry season and to make sure that their soil didn't just wither away. So basically what happened in the Dust Bowl is that the entire top layer of the soil just completely eroded. And so you had the drought, you had the soil going away because the farmers did not prepare it for the dry season. And then what caused the Dust Bowl is these massive windstorms. And so they were coming and they were just taking that top layer of soil, and there's pictures of it, and it's just covered houses. It seriously covered houses top to bottom, was coming in through people's windows and everything, so much that people were fleeing those three states that I mentioned. And so when you think about that, all the crops failed in such of a large region of the country. And so that also played into the cause of the Great Depression as well. And it's notable that the people of those three states were also especially hardly hit because the businesses and necessities and things, a lot of the businesses were failing and people just moved. And so a lot of the pictures of the Great Depression are also pictures of people from that region because it was even more intense there. There was not even the resources that most of the country had. Okay, so that's a brief overview of the Dust Bowl that you got to remember that also ties together. And then the next is underconsumption. So underconsumption provides under and consumption. Consumption is basically the rate at which people are buying things, and how much and things like that. And so the period leading right up until the Great Depression was a period where farmers and small businesses and corporations were all creating and putting out mass product, but the people in the US were not buying at the same rate. And so what was happening is the supply and demand was not balanced any longer. And so basically the supply shot way up and the demand was way low. And so then what happens is that the price goes way down. And so with that, that basically means that all this money is being spent by these providers of goods and food, but then the money's not being put back into the economy. So there just overall is a deficit, right? Does that all make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions so far? No? Okay. All right, so you have all those 4 pieces of vocabulary terms, and that's really the main piece of this lesson as well, is just knowing what those things are. And so then we also need to tie together those 4 things. So underconsumption, the stock market crash, economic depression, and the Dust Bowl are the 4 things that you have to remember that all tied the Great Depression, basically caused it. So underconsumption, again, is basically what caused a deficit in the economy of the U.S. Combine that with the stock market crash. The stock market crash is basically when people's money lost its value because there was not enough money in the economy. And so here's how it went. People wanted to invest in stocks because then you're putting your money somewhere where it can just grow naturally. As the companies are getting bigger and succeeding and things, your money's just growing. But what happened is some people borrowed money from the bank in order to do that. So then when the stock market crashed, they no longer are having their supply of money. They can't pay the banks, and then the banks cannot pay basically off these stocks. And so these companies will go out of business, and then the people that invested in those companies, now their savings and all this effort that they put into putting money there, it's all gone. And so that's how a lot of people lost their life savings and, might have lost their jobs as well with these companies going under. So that's how those go together. And then the economic depression is caused by both of those things because people were not putting into the economy what was going out in goods and products. And then the Dust Bowl, again, that also contributed as well. This all goes together because the farmers were out of work, people were fleeing their businesses, and there were no more supply of crops from that region at all. It was all a complete failure. And so that also fed into food rationing as well because there simply was not as much food with that large region being out of commission. And people also just simply couldn't pay for food. There was mass, hunger and poverty, and people that were already in a lower economic status. Now they didn't just have a tiny house or were living in a not great area. Now they're homeless. So all these things tie together Do you guys kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So that is pretty much all that I have, but I do have a couple of questions, and it's okay. I know I talked a lot at you, so don't worry if you don't quite know. But out of underconsumption, the stock market crash, and the Dust Bowl, what's your guys' opinion on which played the biggest role starting the Great Depression? What do you guys think?
The underconsumption.
Okay, yeah, that's a good answer. What do you think, Jay?
The stock market crashing.
For sure. Okay, actually, I would definitely agree with both because my initial thought was it's underconsumption because that's what kicked off the whole thing. But really, with the stock market crashing, that's how people actually began losing their money. And so they tie together so closely in what caused all of this. So really good job, guys. You definitely understand what I'm saying. So then I just want to give an overview as well of what happened during the Depression. Like I said, those who were not well off already became homeless. Food was rationed. People actually would stand in unemployment lines on a daily basis as people would drive by with jobs and things, and people would be begging to go work with people that did have a job. People went hungry, businesses closed, and actually marriage and birth rates went down. Why do you guys think that marriage and birth rates went down during this time of economic turmoil, basically? What do you guys think?
Because the wife or husband could divorce the other because they don't have to pay for the child.
Okay, true. Very true. What do you think, Jay?
Able to raise the child.
True, yeah.
Not being there.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. That's good insight, definitely. Yeah, I also think people were focused a lot on survival at this time. And so to them, the thought of doing celebratory things in life, like getting married or having a baby, for some people it wouldn't be on their radar. Just like today, some people don't want to have children because of various things going on in the world. So, that can happen. But we are going to wrap up here for today. You guys did a really good job, and be thinking a little about what you think. So these are the causes that I told you. Get your mind thinking a little for the next lesson about what that looked like during the Depression. We're going to look at pictures in the next lesson of what life looked like, and then we're going to look at the effects of it as well, okay? Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.